There we go. Howdy, folks. Happy Tuesday. So for a second there, I wasn't sure if StreamYard was going to be kicking into gear. It took a little bit, but we are here. We've got some things to discuss today. We have a preview. I think Eck will be posting to his blog any second on the New York Rangers. It's a rather historic day in the history of hockey that we'll discuss. But Russ will start us off with the pre-show.
So let's talk about NFL coaching. It seems like it's very hard to get a good young coach these days, in the sense that if you're getting and here's what I want to differentiate. When someone hires a coordinator, but he's a first-time coach, I don't care what you did as a coordinator.
Right.
You go back to being a coordinator, and you might be the best coordinator in the league. I think, the guy in Tampa Bay who used to coach the Jets might say that, but he wasn't a good coach. Mm-hmm. Coaching is different. You got to have different sensibilities. You have to let go of what you were good at. And Todd Bowles is the name I was thinking of.
Yeah.
And you have to let go what you're good at and get everything else to merge. And I think what we're seeing in this league is that guys like, Robert Saleh from the Jets and Nick Sirianni from the Eagles and, some of these first-time guys trying to break in, it's very difficult. And there was a very embarrassing play for the Eagles yesterday. Brian Baldinger, former Nassau Community alum like me, pointed out that on a goal line stand, the Eagles had 10 guys out there.
Yeah, I don't know if I was actually checking out again the Peyton and Eli broadcast. No, I actually like it. I mean, thing is, it's like when they concentrate on the game, it's actually good. When yesterday they had LeBron James on.
I don't care that he was offered a contract in other sports.
Right. So everything was LeBron, and you know what? Honestly, I'm sick of LeBron when he's playing basketball, let alone when they're talking about football. Great, you know about linebackers and defensive backs. Thanks, LeBron.
He doesn't like getting hit, I'm sure.
The only thing I can say about LeBron is at least he's not a shirker like apparently Kyrie Irving is. But no. Yeah, I mean, I have to say this, and you said it about the Jets and their new coach, and who was a defensive coordinator in San Francisco, and he didn't really put a lot of experience on the staff.
No, none.
The one thing that Sean McDermott in Buffalo did, he had been an assistant coach for a long time in the NFL, in Philadelphia, then in Carolina. He brought in Leslie Frazier, who was a longtime defensive coordinator.
God, I'm old. I remember him as a quarterback, I think.
Yeah, he brought in first an experienced offensive coordinator from Denver. Then he brought in Brian Dable, who was the offensive coordinator with the Patriots and with Alabama, and he's probably going to be head coach in the next year or so. But what he did was he brought in experience. He realized he was inexperienced, so he brought experience with him, at least some experience with him, and I think that helped. That showed an intelligence that he needed somebody with experience to be a sounding board, and also that it's a situation where you can't be out on a limb, and some of these young coaches are out on a limb.
Yeah, I mean, let's put it this way: I'm not against a coach who's under 40 years old, but I am against it if they have no place to turn when they're having troubles, and so. The Jets have that problem right now, and there's other teams that have that problem. And that's where the experience does come in. So if I were an NFL owner, I would pay these coaches what they want, these experienced coaches, and I would never bring in green coaches because it's just too much of a learning curve. It really is.
Yeah, the one problem is, like, in the NHL, you have too many recycled coaches. And in the NFL, I think they're maybe too quick to go to the inexperienced coach because they're cheap. Because, I wouldn't want to hire Rex Ryan again. I think Rex, but there are coaches out there. I mean, I don't particularly
hire him as a defensive coordinator.
Sure. I don't particularly think that Mike McCarthy is a fantastic head coach.
Did you see all the time that clicked off yesterday
at
the half? I mean, what are you doing, Mike? You could You could have gotten a field goal. Why are you satisfied with 27 points? Try for 30. What is wrong with you?
But for all the criticism before the season and all the skepticism regarding the Raiders, they're 3-0 and Gruden.
Yeah, but they started off hot last year. Let's see what happens when it's like week 10. Let's see what their record is then.
I know, but there is something to say about the experienced coach, and if they make the playoffs, then he's not going to lose his job, and neither is Mayock.
He won't lose his job anyhow. They can't afford not to have him on staff. They still owe him too much money, Mike. He's got safety in money.
Now, tonight begins the stretch run for the final week of the Major League Baseball season, and it's been a bizarre one. I mean, in the National League, who would have predicted the St. Louis Cardinals win 16 games in a row?
They started when they swept the Mets, and they never looked back.
I know.
That's really the series.
Yeah, it's like, hey, well, Adam Wainwright's still around, Russ.
I know. It's crazy.
But
I had to write about him. Like, he's having a phenomenal year. Like, this guy, it's really – and he doesn't throw top speed anymore. He just knows how to pitch.
No, it's the old folks home in St. Louis. You got Jay Happ, you've got John Lester, and you got Adam Wainwright. Yeah. But no, in the race that everybody is focused on is the wild card race in the American League. And
I'm not focused on it. But
I know. I said everybody except you. The Mariners won last night pretty much. If you're 3 games out with 6 games to go, I think you're out of it. But
most likely.
Yeah. So Seattle basically took out Oakland. I believe they're both 3 games out with 6 to play.
Listen, Oakland deserves to be taken out. They don't spend money. They come close all the time. They do have good talent. But you know what? I don't care that they got taken out. I would rather see Seattle make it if they could. It would be a good story, but they probably won't.
And the Yankees play in Toronto 3 games. Now, Toronto is 2 games behind the Yankees, which basically means if the Yankees win 1 of 3, not to say they're going to settle for it, but if they win 1 of 3, then Toronto only gains a game on them.
Right.
But then Toronto finishes the season with 3 wins against Baltimore, and the Yankees play Tampa. So now Tampa
don't own Tampa like they used to.
No, the games are in New York, but the thing is Tampa is also going to want to get their rotation set and their bullpen rested. So you're probably not going to see them go sort of balls out for victories. But if they can knock out the Yankees, I'm sure that they would do that.
Well, here's to a Blue Jays sweep.
Yeah, eat me. The other thing that I wanted to bring up regarding baseball, and then we'll start the show. We're just sort of killing time here till Eck joins, is the report that came out on the weekend that the Tampa Bay Rays are going to play half their games in Montreal next year. We heard about it before.
And then the pandemic killed it.
Yeah, the pandemic killed it. And obviously, up until July, Toronto couldn't play in Toronto, but now they can, and now teams can cross the border. And it sounds like that next season, this is going to be the case where they're going to split 41 games in Tampa and 41 games in Montreal. And all I have to say is this: if you can't, first of all, you can't draw 10,000 fans in Tampa for a team that's in first place, for one of the best teams in the league. And the only time you fill the building is when the Yankees come to town because they play spring training in Tampa, and they're basically the home team there. And you have to ferry out 41 games out of the country. You don't deserve a team. They should.
No, and look, this isn't like the second coming of the Expos. And the Big O is a dump. I don't care that they fixed it a little bit. It's not good. It's probably still leaks when it rains.
Well, the question here is this a precursor of Tampa Bay moving to Montreal? Only if Montreal builds them a stadium, and
which again has failed a million times over.
Right.
Why all of a sudden is it going to be good now? Why now?
Well, and this is the question.
They're going to go with you're going to build a downtown thing. I mean, it was 20 years ago. I was on BBC Radio talking about this with Washington and them going to Washington and the possibility of them moving. And I kept hearing about all these last minute concocted stadium deals. in Montreal, and none of them came through. Not one of them got close.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still a base of fans in Montreal, not a big base, but probably bigger than Tampa. And Tampa's been there for what, 25 years at least?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's talking about major league expansion. There's talk of them going to Nashville and other places, and maybe that's going to happen. Honestly, expand by one less and move them out of Tampa, because that area has shown no interest in building a new stadium. The stadium there is almost as bad as Olympic Stadium. And, a team you put that team in a new city with how competitive they are, they'll sell out like crazy. But right now, those fans just simply don't care.
Look, and the Bills did it too for a while when their fans weren't showing up. And with marginal results after a while, it's the crowd started to wane there.
The Bills?
When they went in Toronto.
Well, no, it wasn't because of the crowds. It was because Ralph Wilson he got Ted Rogers in Toronto to pay an exorbitant price for one game. And, it was guaranteed money. He was making more money in the games in Toronto than he was in Buffalo. So after a while, people got pissed off because the season ticket holders wanted 8 games, and they eventually ended it. But he made a ton of money on that. That was a sucker's deal.
He made a ton of money, but I don't think the stands were full. That's my point.
Oh, in Toronto they weren't, because in Toronto they weren't, because they were always full in Buffalo. They even been there.
No, I know that. I'm talking about the Toronto part.
Oh, yeah, because the ticket prices were ridiculous.
Well, but that's fine. But it was a failure for a reason. Tampa, it's going to fail there too.
Hello.
You froze up there.
Sorry, you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're good. Let's start the show.
Hold on. I was just on a big phone call about Eichel. We're going to get into that a little bit.
Okay.
Kind of crazy. All right, here we go. But we got a good team today too. All right,
let's go.
I'm going. Relax. Literally flew in here, man. You should have seen what I've been trying to do. Sorry. Okay, ready? Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, September 28th, 2021.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. I'm fired up. Sorry. You're watching Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is a podcast that comes your Monday through Friday to fill you in the comings and goings in the hockey world. And today I'm going to tell you my next team that I think is going to win the Stanley Cup. I'm really confident on this one too. So I think we're going to be good. I think we're really going to be good.
They have more chance than the first 3.
Yeah, I think so. And I
will say that. Yes.
I actually think this might be my team to make it to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Let's not go that far
in the Eastern Conference, but we'll get that prediction later.
They're a dark horse, but we'll get to that
prediction later. But let's first start. There is some movement today. I have some sources at the NHLPA. So with the Eichel thing, I've been chasing down the whole thing about the surgeries, different stuff like that, and I'm hearing that I was trying to get the exact thing on the record before I got on here. This is why I'm late. So I got to just think for a second here how I'm going to say this, but I'm hearing pretty well. We'll do well. I'm hearing pretty well that we're going to have some news on the Eichel surgery in the next 24 hours. That's going to be something. It's going to be a little bit surprising. Apparently, I don't know what I wish I could say more than that right now, but I think that you're seeing a situation where I think it's likely that Eichel gets the surgery he wants, and that the Sabres go along with it.
Well, okay. This is a thing that was interesting that yesterday Elliot Friedman reported.
Okay.
His podcast was that, and normally when he hints at something, it's something that he's heard that, that probably is going to happen. Like with the captaincy situation, he reported that about a week before it actually happened. Right. He mentioned that, there's an impasse here. One side doesn't want to give up the position that they are in, and the other side, same thing. And he said this is something that the NHL, the league itself, would have to move in on because, it's depriving the league of a player who is a valuable player who would help either the Sabres or another team. And this stalemate is something that just has to be broken. And one of the
NHLPA might have stepped in more than the NHL, but go ahead, continue.
One of the potential solutions would be that the Sabres reveal the medicals on Eichel to every team, to every team that's interested. Apparently, they have only been willing to reveal the medicals, the analysis of the medical situation on his neck to teams that would already have made an offer. And teams aren't going to make an offer if they don't know what the medical situation is.
Yeah, but I don't think this
Sorry
changes
about my camera.
a lot.
I'll come back in a second. I'm just readjusting it.
I don't think it changes a lot. I think you might get one more team interested that wasn't before. I don't think the medicals are going to change anything. It's all about what's going to happen after that. They're not all of a sudden going to kick in the 4 possible first-round value players because now they got to see the medicals. That's not happening.
Well, I don't disagree, Russ. I think you're right about that.
But the thing is, and I've talked to a couple people about this, Zach, is that the belief is that the main reason that the Sabres are not going along with the disc replacement is purely an insurance situation,
right?
Meaning whoever's insuring his contract will not insure it if he has what they deem is a risky surgery. And that puts all the onus on the Sabres on the $50 million remaining on the deal.
Or it puts the onus on somebody at some level to convince the insurance company that it's not as risky as they're acting. Like, the issue there, and it is about insurance. There's no question about it. It is definitely about insurance.
Have you ever heard of trying to change an insurance company's mind?
Yeah.
Yes, actually, and I've done it. And I think Kevin's done it too. No, it's not easy at all. It's hellish. I've done it. Kevin Allen, I think, has done it too with his daughter. I've done it with my son. It's hellish, but it can be done. Of course, I'm not trying to insure a $10 million contract.
Right.
I'm just trying to get the right medical procedure for my son. But yeah, it is tricky, and I think that how this plays out. That's definitely the issue right now. Once he gets the procedure, that could change things. I mean, that could change things.
What's funny? I don't think teams care which procedure he gets. They just want to see that he's going to be on a path to being.
They just want to see they just want to see if
that's it. I don't think they care either way. I don't think they're rooting for one procedure or the other.
Well,
I asked 3 teams if they would let him get the procedure if it was on them. I asked them. I said, well, if this is a situation, and assuming and they all said, well, the insurance would be a thing. We have to make sure that worked out. But a couple of them said, that they would do it anyway. Like 2 of them said they would just do it because they said the reality is. His mother's a doctor too. Eichel's mother's a doctor.
A nurse.
No, she's not a
nurse.
doctor.
I mean, a nurse. I mean, I know she's in medical. Sorry, and she's a nurse.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is that no one has more to lose in this than Eichel himself. Like you can sit there and say the Sabres have a lot to lose by losing Eichel. Yeah, sure, but the Eichel's got a ton to lose. I mean, he's got a big career going here.
It's easy for those teams to say that because in this theoretical situation, they're not giving up anything. If ask them, okay, after you give up 4 first-round equivalents, are you willing to have him do what is deemed to be an experimental surgery? And they're going to say,
of course. Right. You're right. I mean, I'm not saying, but I didn't ask that question. I didn't say, would you trade for if I said, would you trade what they want for them? They all said no. I mean, they all say they won't trade what they want until they know if he's healthy. Okay.
Right.
The question is, will they, would they just say fine? Would they basically just say, okay, that's the surgery this kid wants, and that's the surgery his doctors are telling him to do, and it's not as experimental as people are making it out to be. It's from everything I've heard. That's the crazy thing about it.
It is for this sport. It absolutely is.
Right.
Well,
the reason
it's not like a lot of athletes have it either.
But you got to get surgery every couple of years with the other one. I mean, he's going to have to get surgery 5 years from now with fusion, then 5 years from then, keep having to get surgeries. That's also way more. Every time you get surgery, it's more risky than having to do it once too. There's a lot of different things there.
I get that, but again, I believe the reason that there's such hesitance on the part of the Sabres is purely because they don't want to be on the hook for that $50 million over the next 5 years because insurance won't cover it. Now, maybe the solution is that the NHL helps the Sabres find an insurance company that will cover it.
Will cover it, right?
I can just imagine what the premiums on that damn thing will be.
Yeah, try to insure someone once you have a problem. Insurance doesn't work. That's not usually how insurance companies. My car's broken down, and you don't then call up the insurance company and say, "Hey, what kind of insurance rates can I get?"
Yeah, there's a commercial that's like, "Yeah, do you have type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure, and you're fat and over the age of 50? Call Big Lou, and you'll get an insurance."
I hate those commercials.
Yeah, for $200 a month. You know what? I'd rather croak and leave my family destitute.
Anybody can give you insurance. Is how they'll.
That's a nice sentiment,
what they'll cover and what they'll do for you. I mean, it's like Big Lou's insurance will cover like 2% of your bills.
Bite me, Big Lou. But no, so
right.
So I don't know. We'll see what.
We'll get back to this, but this is what I want to say about this. Based on the call I was just on, and the reason I'm late today is not just negligence. Like you were guessing. I really wasn't. It was really. I'm trying to get an interview. I interviewed a guy from the NHLPA today. I'm trying to get it on the record, and I'm going to interview him later. I think either on the record or off the record. This article will be coming tomorrow for me. About and I might just have to do it off the record. I'd like to do this one on the record because it's a very good source at the NHLPA, and I think it would be way more powerful. So I'm trying my best. We'll see what happens.
Right.
But one way or the other, I'm going to get the information out there. So, and I was hoping to have, and he basically said, listen, I got to talk to some people if I'm going to go on the record with this or not. So I had to, okay, fine, no problem. So I have to wait. Anyway, that's what's happening. So stay tuned. Chime in things of the games I've seen so far that I two little things that I wanted to note in the games I saw so far that I thought were kind of fun. But go ahead.
No, just one thing. Well, after that, switch your thing because you're shuttering.
Oh, is the microphone wrong? I can fix it. Real fast. Sorry.
No, not the microphone. Your internet connection. You're shuttering.
Oh, it sucks. Shoot. Okay. Hold on. I'm gonna do that now.
Yeah. Well, okay, Russ. Last night the Leafs and Canadians were on NHL Network in the States, and
here we go. Back.
Okay, that's better. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so here we go. Two things I noticed. First thing has to do with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay, I watched game one, and I have to tell you that I have never seen Michael Nylander look better. Just as far as his lightness on his skates and his vision and everything like that. I mean, granted, he's playing against a bunch of players that aren't NHLers, I'm sure. But
was he in the press box watching William?
I'm sorry, William Nylander. Sorry. It's been that kind of day. William Nylander, apologize. I thought the way William Nylander looked in that game, if that is the William Nylander we're going to get this season, with him having the confidence to go to the net, having his head up to see the play developing, that's a difference maker. He looked as good as I've. Did you notice that too, Mike, in that game?
Yeah. But again, I've watched William Nylander since he was 18. That's the William Nylander that you see for 20 games a year. It's the William Nylander you see the other 60 when he's a zero.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I mean if that William Nylander is for real,
he gets 30 goals every year.
Absolutely worth every cent he's getting paid, and that's a game changer.
He gets 30 goals every year for all the crutching.
He does. No, he does. But he's actually better than that. Like the reality is,
you can't be better than 30 if you get 30.
Okay, Russ.
He's got I'm going to say
His
this is going to be a weird comparison, maybe, but a Kovalev type vision.
You just stole my line, because I was saying his dad was known as the Swedish Gretzky, and his son is the Swedish Kovalev. Because
is that really true?
Yeah,
that's interesting. I had never heard that before.
No, well, Michael Nylander was referred to as the Swedish Gretzky.
Okay,
and
I knew that, but I never knew Nylander.
No, I'm saying it. I was going to make the comparative because Kovalev is somebody who showed up for 20 games a year, and Nylander has been that way most of his career. Yes. When he's on, he's one of the best players in the league. He's fantastic. He's got speed. He's got strength. He can shoot. All that stuff. The problem is in the games that he doesn't show up, he's a liability sometimes.
Right. I get that.
Okay, but that's any player. But all I'm saying
is, no, it's not any player. He's a special player.
It's not. Mike, He had 42 points last year in 50-something games. How much better do you think he is than that?
He's 20
That's
points
the
better
issue.
than that. He's potentially 20 points better than that, right? I mean, the reality is
51 games. You think he's supposed to have 62 points?
Russ, if
Get
he
the hell out of here.
if he plays the way he plays at the top level,
Yeah.
he's a point per game player.
he is.
Especially
He's not a point.
especially playing with either Tavares or
It doesn't matter. He was never going to be a point per game player.
Well, then you know what, Russ? He's wasting his talent.
He's not wasting his talent. His talent is what you see. This is not like a guy who's supposed to score 30 who's been getting 15 or 17 goals a year.
No, he's a guy who could score 45.
No, he can't.
Yeah. This is where I agree with Mike. I agree with Mike, Russ. I mean, I've seen him. I mean, I've always thought that too. But then I started to give up, and I was starting to think like you were, Russ, like you're thinking now, like that is what he is, And then, but just like the eye test of him in that it's one game, it's one preseason game, but the eye test that he had in that game where he has like that Panarin-esque type thing to him.
There's nothing close.
I won't go that far.
It's not that far off.
It's very far off.
No.
Heck, he's not the best winger on his own team, let alone.
No, I mean, I know he's got. Listen, I mean, I mean, if he's playing at his best, though, I think he can be right there with Marner. I do. If he's playing,
no, he
best.
Can't.
No, I do. I don't. But the question is now, will he be able to do it every game in game?
No, and he's 24 years old, going on 25. By that age, a player is what he is. And what he is an extremely talented but extremely enigmatic player who shows up when he wants to, and then at other times is a complete disappearing act.
No, you see, I don't.
It's infuriating.
No, I know it's infuriating, and I agree with what you're saying, but I don't agree necessarily that a guy at 24 can't figure out what it takes to play every shift. Like I think that he needs the right kind of player around him. I'll never forget what Jágr did in Philly for Giroux and Voracek and what I saw there, because that they took Giroux and Voracek from really good players to great players by really working on how to play every shift. It was a big difference. You saw it. He needs like that Jágr type influence of somebody to teach him how to play every shift. And if he has that, I'm
not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's unlikely.
Listen, he's a Nylander. There are certain characteristics in that family that are going to carry over. Like it's just, but he's not a point of game player. He's never going to be.
And I'll just say this, because we talked about the All for Nothing series. They released a screener to us, and I watched it over the weekend. When the Leafs lost Game 7 in the locker room, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, understandably, and Jack Campbell especially, were distraught, were crying after losing that series. William Nylander was nowhere to be found. He was probably on a racetrack somewhere the day after the game.
So here we go.
No, I'm just saying that there is a sense of entitlement when it comes to Nylander because
that's fair. I think that exists.
Yeah, and I think that exists too, and that's what's frustrating about this. So that's why I'm sitting there watching this thing. I'm like, man, oh man, that kid. If he had his head, if someone could get his head on right, man, oh man. All right, next thing I noticed, I watched the Seattle Kraken. Okay, I watched Seattle Kraken play.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been talking about a couple things about them that I wasn't sure about. I do like some of the line combinations they used. I like some of the line. I think Haxtell did a good job with his lines. The one line of Schwartz on it. I'm trying to think of who he's with. He was playing really. It was with Johansson, I think, and
Yanni Gord.
No, the kid from Boston who's been all over the place.
Donato,
right? Donato, Johansson, and Schwartz. I like that. That was, and then also seeing out. They also had Donato at times with some other players too. There, and the defense does look solid. I mean, they really do have a good defense. I mean, at the end of the day, Larson
it looks solid in preseason. Like I think it's average
but
NHL.
The goaltending, this is what I want to talk about. Okay. Grubauer, I am totally 100% feeling the same way I've always felt about Grubauer.
Here we go.
No, I mean that he has potential to be a great goalie and has played great in situations, but I think that he on a bad team, there's some goalies that are made to play on bad teams, like
Ron Tugnut.
But Fleury is actually a good goalie on a bad defensive team. He's great, in that situation because Fleury doesn't overcommit himself. It's very easy to overplay the puck. And tomorrow I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to bring up some footage that I was trying to get ready for today of some of what I'm talking about with Grubauer, because he did this a couple times in the game where he's overplaying the puck and it's costing him. Not overplaying the puck, but overplaying the passes and shots, like going too far, going past his angle a lot. And that's something that certain goalies do when they're playing on teams that are giving up a lot of chances, which is what's going to happen with the Kraken. I think he's going to. I think that Drazier actually might be a better goalie for that team, and I think I really still stand by my feeling that was a bad move.
I think the bad move was to sign a goaltender when you're an expansion team to a 6-year deal for $5.5 million.
I'm going to ask you a question.
I just
who was a higher lifetime save percentage, Philip Grubauer or Pekka Rinne?
Say that again.
Who was a better all-time save percentage?
Lifetime save percentage, Philip Grubauer or Pekka Rinne?
One's career is extremely shorter than
but it's at 6 or 8 years now. I mean, it's not like it's 2 years.
And Grubauer was a backup in Washington.
Save percentage is save percentage, Mike. Has nothing to do with being a backup.
More games can affect.
Okay, but
save percentage is. I disagree on that. We've talked about this before. You wouldn't be asking stat than you give it.
You wouldn't be asking this question if Grubauer didn't have a higher save percentage. So that's why.
Of course, right. But the idea is, if I'd have told you he had a lifetime save percentage of 920, the way Eck talks about him, it would be impossible. No,
I'm just saying that I'm not saying he hasn't been a good. I'm not saying he's not a good goalie. I'm not saying he's not a good goalie with teams that can play solid defensively. I'm saying, is he the right goalie for this team? And I don't think he is. And I think that's going to be a problem with them this year.
Tell me which of these teams had a rock solid defense. 2013-14 as a backup, he had a 925 with Washington. Was that a rock solid defense back then? No,
but it's a Stanley Cup contending team. It's a better team than this team.
Okay, I mean, that's fair.
I mean, they're talking about an expansion team here versus two teams he's played on that have both been Cup contention teams, right? I mean, both Colorado and
not every year. I mean, Washington's always like sort of in it, but they weren't always like going to make it to the conference final every year. No.
Yeah, I mean, they're not. No, but they were while he was there. They were a top team, and Colorado's obviously a top team, and I think that with save percentage. If you're getting easy, if teams are getting easier shots and teams are picking up their positions so that you just have the shot and they've got the pass, that's a whole different world than save percentage on a team that's passing around that's not picking up the passes and putting you in a weird spot. It's definitely save percentage is a big time team stat, and it's not just like these aren't the same saves that people are it's completely. Well, it's a non-scientific stat if there ever was one, because it's totally different. Well, every shot that one goalie faces is not the shot that another goalie faces.
Well, the most impressive thing that I've heard out of Seattle, and I think this is correct, is that they're calling their fans the Geek Squad.
I like that.
About right.
Yeah,
I like the climate change arena. I like a lot of stuff. I like a lot of the climate pledge arena. There's the good stuff going on in Seattle.
But just honestly, it's like I get just because Vegas made a Stanley Cup final, that was a once in a million thing. I don't think Seattle's going to make the playoff.
No, they're not.
I think they're going to be better than a couple teams in their division, because there are a couple teams in their division like Anaheim and San Jose that are absolutely friggin' brutal, but they're not going to make the playoffs. They're not.
I just want to point this out to Eck. Mm-hmm. So last year, as much as you like Ilya Sorokin, and he's on a great team, his GSAA is 5.9. Grubauer this year was 14.5. The year before he was 6.5. The year before he was 7.5. The year before he was 10.6. The year before he was 7.6. Those are very solid numbers for the GSAA. That is a scientific stat, and those are very good numbers.
Yeah, no, they are good numbers, and I'm really more.
People just like to rip on this guy.
No, I don't like to rip on him. I'm going off. I'll show you tomorrow what I'm talking about in some video. It's more going off of just the eye test of things that he's doing. That if you're going to play on a team that's going to give up a lot of big chances, which Seattle is going to do, you need certain kinds of goalies are better at that than others. I think.
But that's not going to matter unless they're in competition for a playoff spot. That was a signing, and I don't agree with it, but that was a signing for 2 or 3 years down the road, not a signing for the here and the now. If they're
No,
competitive,
I think that signing was also a perfect storm in a way. Like I think the Grubauer signing was a bit of a perfect storm. The Grubauer thing, not his negotiations going on in Colorado, him threatening to go to Seattle, that he would go somewhere else if Colorado wouldn't sign him, continuing to threaten that, and then also the fact that Colorado sat there and didn't make a move on Carey Price when they had a chance to, and that. Even though that wasn't, the right move to go with Carey Price in most people's eyes, it still was hanging out there for their fans. And I think they felt like they had a chance to get, the goalie, a Vezina kind of goalie from one of the best teams in the league, and they went for it. But I just think that the weird thing is that obviously wasn't their plan, because they wouldn't have signed Dredger to all that money if it was their plan. I mean, they have a lot of money tied up in goalies right now.
yeah, but there's goalies are in short supply. They can always trade Dredger or trade Grubauer, because
They can, and they probably will have to trade one of them at some point.
Right, and really, I mean, $3.5 million is not a lot of money for a goaltender. It's a question of whether Dredger is worth it. But knows.
Well, I think he's. My prediction is that he will win that starting job eventually over Grubauer this year, which is going to be a tough one to see.
In the category of and the hits just keep on coming. Not only is Evander Kane being investigated for the off the ice domestic violence situations, apparently he is also being investigated for breaking COVID protocol. So it never ends with this.
I can only imagine the establishment that he might have broken protocol with.
Yeah.
Yeah, a casino, could it be?
No, I'm thinking of a different kind of establishment. Mike.
Who knows?
Oh, yes.
Who knows? I know it's a tough one. All right, in the last 20 minutes we have, I'd like to get to my
usually a place with good chicken wings.
My thing. But do we have anything else before that, Mike?
Just the and it's off the ice news. It's media news, but I think it's notable enough to mention.
Okay.
Chris Johnston, who is a good friend of the show of the Off the Post show, who's been on a couple times. Russ and I know him, and I'm sure you know him too as well.
Very well. I talked to Chris a lot.
He first of all, he moved away from Sportsnet to sign an agreement with the Toronto Star a couple weeks ago. He started his own podcast as part of the Steve Dangle podcast network, and now today he is joining TSN. So he will be on the Insider panel with Peter LeBrun and Darren Drager. So if you're talking about the Insider Wars, now it's 3-1 with TSN having 3 and Sportsnet having 1.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting. Chris is a great guy, and a big member. He was in Atlanta for a long time. That's what I remember about Chris. Wasn't Chris Johnson was in Atlanta? Wasn't he?
No, you're thinking of Scott Burnside.
I'm thinking of Scott Burnside. I'm confusing them. I always confuse those two.
Took a new gig too today.
Yeah, right, Scott Burnside is with
I apologize. Yeah, Burnside. Burnside was one.
Daily Face Off. He's with Daily Face Off.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but no, both are great guys. So that's wow, good for him.
Yeah. Okay, so now
definitely a win for TSN. In Hockey Buzz, we've got more than them anyway, so it doesn't matter. We're still winning that battle. All right, here we go. Who do I think today is going to win the Stanley Cup? Well, this was actually a team I was looking forward to doing, and I kind of got inspired because I was listening to some people talk about them over the weekend, and I really do now firmly believe that the New York Rangers will win the Stanley Cup. And this is here's my thinking, and it's not. I know it's not that outlandish, but there really is sort of a formula for winning the Stanley Cup. And as I bring up my notes here, the formula, tends to have you have to have a certain amount of young players. You need a certain amount of old players. You want a superstar, and when you go through it, the Rangers have like this perfect combination of all those things. They're one of the few teams in the NHL that really does check all those boxes. You want a couple of young prospects that are about to explode, and here you have, in Lafreniere and Kakko, you really do have two guys that haven't lived up to expectations yet.
Well, Lafreniere only had 1 year. You could say it about Kakko. Lafreniere's only had 1 year.
Yeah, he's only had 1 year. But both players have really played in this in the crazy COVID NHL 2 years, which with Kakko basically 2 years, Lafreniere 1 year, where this is like. We have not seen their development nearly what you'd in a normal scenario. I mean, young players definitely can they like to get into sort of, like a system, like a pattern. There's been nothing like that for these guys. and it's been so random. They've been playing without fans. They've been off for months at a time. Where like we all were. But I really think that we don't know where these guys really are yet until we see this year start.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to see like a development that's way further ahead than we thought. That's my feeling with them. And talking to people who I know a couple of guys who skated with Lafreniere, and they said this kid just looks like everything, right? Like he just looks like incredible right now, and he has talents that we have not even gotten to see yet. And I don't think he was properly used for what he is in
for half the season he wasn't.
Yeah. I think that he's got a coach now that absolutely, in Gerard Gallant, who loves to play players like him. Like he is the, he loves a fast team. He loves quick teams. He like players who play fast. Lafreniere and Kakko are all of that. They both are. And so that's the first thing you need. Your second thing you need is you need a number one D-man, which they have, in Adam Fox. Obviously they have a top flight defenseman. Beyond him, they still have some question marks on defense still, but they've got a solid enough defense. I think that when you put it all together with Fox on top, you get the really solid thing. Every cup team needs a goalie who can steal games, and in Shesterkin you have that. You have a goalie who can definitely steal you games. I love Shesterkin. He's one of my top 3 or 4 favorite goalies in the league. He is the best poke checker and the goalie that we've seen since Marty Brodeur. He is really just absolutely he just can he plays such a unique and interesting style. He's just, if you're a goalie, you got to watch him play. He's just a lot of fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And he's pretty good with the puck too. He's pretty good handling the puck. He's got a lot of interesting skills. Every cup needs a superstar. And of course the Rangers have that, and Artemi Panarin, who last year, put up a remarkable 58 points in 42 games, despite the fact that, he went through all that stuff with Putin and missed time and everything like that. It's impressive. I mean, those numbers are impressive. And every cup needs a solid core of top 6 veterans who have been misplaced and misguided and at times look terrible, but are hungry to show that they still have something in their game. And in that, in Zibanejad and Kreider, you have that, and also throw Strome in there, who's also been like around and beaten in different places and different things like that. Kreider, especially talked to a big Rangers source today, and everyone says Kreider's the guy to look out for because there's a little rumor going around that Kreider could be named captain of this team.
I think he should be. I thought he should have been captain a year ago.
Yeah, and naming Kreider captain would do a lot for him, I think, as far as bring his confidence back, make him feel more of a part of this team again. And if he's a part of this team and he's engaged and his confidence is back, you're adding another really significant player into your lineup that you didn't have the past couple of years. So you name him captain, and then you bring in Gallant. Every team needs one more thing. Every team needs heart and toughness. This was the Rangers' downfall last year. Everyone thought, it was way over amplified because of the Tom Wilson situation, but it definitely, by going out and getting Gaudreau and Ryan Reeves, you really added heart and toughness as a lot in one fell swoop. Like you basically added 2/3 of a line that, and Reeves, who is he's a difficult player in some ways. I've talked to people about it, but you have to know how to handle him. And there's no one that knows how to handle him better than Gerard Gallant, so they've got the perfect situation there.
Except he's never been in New York and he's never played in this division where this division will try and exploit what he does. Right. It's going to be a very difficult season for Ryan Reeves.
I mean, he didn't play with the Penguins, right? Even though he was there very much.
He didn't play a ton with them.
It's going to be like, for example, it's going to be Ryan Reeves against the entire 4th line of the Islanders, like Johnston and
I put Gaudreau in there too. Like I think that I think
if you're using Barclay Goodrow as an enforcer act, then you're misusing a
not
guy.
An enforcer, but this is your 3rd, 4th line.
Okay, but let's just talk about it. Goudreau got kicked out of his first preseason game for checking someone in the back. He just found out the rules about cross-checking, and he tested them, and he got a game misconduct. If that's part of his repertoire, he's going to have a problem.
Right, exactly. Now, let me say, because here's, like I said, one of the 4 the 4th of the 4 teams that you previewed. Then the one I like the best, and I think they're only a dark horse I think they could make the playoffs as a wild card. I think they're a dark horse at best to win the Stanley Cup, but I do love the pieces here. I love the goaltending, and I'll let Russ go more about that. The top end of their defense is fantastic with Fox and Trouba. I like Lindgren as a defensive defenseman. Keandre Miller is a really good young guy. Forward-wise, the part that you missed, when you were going through your list of, they have this, they have that, they're not strong up the middle. I like Zibanejad, and Zibanejad is a number one center. They haven't signed him, and he's going to try to put up big points to earn a big deal. I mean, all the reason that they were in on Jack Eichel all year was because they realized they're not strong up the middle. Ryan Strome is a middle of the road number two center, and the only reason that he is that is because he plays well with Panarin. They've got unbelievable strength and potential on the wings with Kako, Lafreniere, but they're just not strong enough up the middle to be a contender. And I think they went bananas when it came to overdoing it when it came to responding to the Tom Wilson thing. Great, you'll win a Pier 6 brawl. The whole point is to win games. And if you're gonna decompensate games against the Islanders and the Capitals into bench clearing brawls from the 70s, they're not gonna win. But I like the talent here. But Russ,
so a few things. They're not strong up the middle. If they are counting on Hedl to be an everyday center, I think they're going to be disappointed in that. If Morgan Barron doesn't make the team and they go with Rooney because they think Hedl's going to be the center, I think Kevin Rooney is a very good penalty killer and a very marginal player. Otherwise, I don't think he offers much. Reeves had all 5 points last year. Yes, he can intimidate in some games. Reeves is never a reason you're going to win the Stanley Cup. And him and Sammy Blais, I actually think are going to be dangerous on the line for getting stupid penalties at bad times. I also don't think they're going to play more than 9 minutes a game anyhow.
Yeah. Blais may play more.
Maybe.
Blais
might. So there's that. The goaltending is solid. It might be the second best goaltending in that division and one of the 6 or 7 or 8 best tandems, I think. It's something in that range. Kako's got to prove himself. He's nothing more than a 20-point guy, 25-point guy until he shows he can find some space on the ice. If he finds that this year, that's great for them. I'm not worried about Lafreniere. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll have a good year. After that, Goudreau, let's not overrate what he gets as points. He's a really good player. He's a heart-and-soul guy. But it's not like Barclay Goudreau is going to get you 60 points.
He's not a point guy.
He'll kill penalties. He'll score in an 82-game season. He'll score about 35 to 40 points.
So
what he does is he's a good momentum guy. He's a good momentum changer.
Sure, but as an example, you're still counting on Hedl and Kravtsov now to make up the point difference on the line with Goudreau. That's still a bridge too far. That's something we still need to see. Kravtsov hasn't proved anything just yet. And he was supposed to be a center, right? That's what he got drafted as, and he's not a center.
Right.
So I think all these things taken into account, I still think the Rangers are a bubble playoff team. I don't think they can make it to the Cup like this. If they were to make trades and they picked up a top flight center at the trade deadline, that's fine. The other biggest factor in all of this is, and this has happened on every Ranger team since the beginning of time, Zibanejad not being signed will be a distraction.
Yes.
Yeah,
because every reporter will ask Chris Drury when he has media.
He'll be on every broadcast,
right? And they'll ask him the question. So, is there any progress with Zibanejad? And it'll drive him crazy.
He is definitely, to me, a factor in positive and negative ways. And it's hard to tell which way it's going to go. It could go.
He's a terrific player, but I just think this is going to affect the team.
And I think that they might be wise. Drury might be wise to try to move him at some point.
He can. All right, let's bring this up. Okay.
Yeah.
If they move him, where are they getting a number one center?
You have to get a center back for him. You have to be a part of the center.
The only way they're moving him is in an Eichel deal, and he won't play for months.
Right. They're not trading Zibanejad. No team is trading a center with term for a center with an expiring contract. He's an expiring contract.
Right. So I know that. I know.
You can't trade a 1-for-1.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I agree with you, Mike. There are definitely rumors out there that he could be moving. I don't know why that the rumors are out there along the lines, and not just like normal, not just like murmurs of that.
Yeah, but you're going to have to
like,
pay him $8-9 million a year for 7 years.
Right. And that might be the reason why.
Not right now. I mean, like right now, like after his last season, like people are waiting to see like how he comes back because of
he points in 56 games. He absolutely will get paid from that.
He started slow because of recovering from COVID, and then he was fantastic.
And he was fantastic. I know, and I agree. I think that I think you can definitely get a lot. I think you can get a lot for him.
You can get a lot, but you won't
if
be able
you
to.
know you can sign him. Like if the Rangers allow you to talk to him, talk to his agent, and say, okay, we'll work something out.
Sure, but again, you can't make up the center gap on that team in that trade.
And the problem with that trade is that trade has to happen before the beginning of the season because you can't like have a guy's agent talking to another team during the season.
Right. And that's not going to happen. They're not doing that.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't think Eichel. If everything I've heard, the Sabres are not going to move Eichel to the Rangers. They don't. The Sabres want to move Eichel to the West.
Yeah, I can see that.
And they the Kings and it basically is the Kings and Vegas. I mean, really, that's really comes down to. And the Kings feel like they have a pretty good shot. The Kings have a lot of prospects that the Sabres like. There's going to be a really major deal there with like 5 or 6 guys coming. I've heard it, but it all depends on and also Minnesota's in there as an outside thing for Eichel, but. I think Minnesota sort of has moved on at this point, but LA, Vegas and LA are definitely going to be the ones. One of those could be stupid enough to jump on Eichel right now. And I've heard that.
If it's stupid, it's Vegas because
because
we know that they're operating not out of smart hockey moves. They're operating because their owner wants to win and they'll do anything to do it. I mean, they're making bad hockey decisions, bad trades. And so that's probably the motivation there.
And here's the other thing too. I don't want to anoint Gerard Gallant until I see what he does in New York because Michel Bergeron came into New York with impeccable credentials from Quebec and he was a disaster. And other coaches have been a disaster too. Because of the market and the pressure and the way things are, the practice rink isn't close. You have to deal with it. Again, Gerard Gallant has never had to deal with any kind of traffic or any kind of everyday problems that you were going to have to deal with.
He was an assistant in Montreal, remember? And an
assistant doesn't have to deal with anything. He is going to have to deal with major issues, major traffic issues, major school issues with his kids. All those kinds of things before he ever gets to the rink. There's a lot of distractions in New York City.
Unless he's living in a condo right around the corner from MSG, he's going to have to deal with that stuff.
Yeah, he won't have that.
Yeah. I mean, everything you're saying is right. And the center thing is, and Gallant has coached without a center. Vegas has had their share of issues at center as well, right? We know that too. And he's been in that spot where he's made a team work without having a real strong center group. That is another thing I like about him in New York. I think the thing that I really like about him the most in New York is that Gallant, I think, gets what it takes to win in the NHL right now. And I don't think the Rangers have had a coach that
there's something to that. I do.
I think that the fast playing thing, I think Gallant had chances to go to a lot of places. Like Gallant he was offered the Seattle job, I was told. He had that opportunity if he wanted to.
I mean, I even mention that the Islanders shut him out the other day, or I don't mention that?
Well, it's like you say, it's preseason.
I know, but again, this is your first. Hold on, it may be preseason, but it's your first time with this team, and you got shut out.
Yeah, and you're right, and the Islanders are probably the best defensive team in hockey. So, let's give the Rangers a little bit of a chance to get things going here. But
what I want to ask Russ is, you've got 2 situations. One we just talked about, Zibanejad, where he's making a little over 5. He's probably going to almost double that on a new deal. Adam Fox wins the Norris. He's on his the last year of his ELC.
Right.
If you compare him to comparable defensemen, meaning
Makar,
Hughes, McAvoy, he's going to make anywhere between $7 to $9 million a year. How can they afford both of those? How can they fit those 2 contracts in? I mean, that means Strome, they probably don't re-sign.
Strome will be gone. He has a short-term deal anyhow.
Yeah.
Right. But, I mean, Kreider's not going anywhere. Panarin's not going anywhere. Do they trade Jacob Trouba?
They might. I mean, Niels Lundqvist,
I've
I think
also heard that Trouba is a possible captain of this team. Like that's
no, I don't think so. I don't think so.
I think that would be crazy, but
it would be. I think Niels Lundqvist will make the team this year. That helps them with their defensive depth. They also have Tarmo Reunanen and a couple of other guys that are close. So I think at some point, if you decide Trouba's contract's too much, as physical as Lindgren can be, I think you could do without Jacob Trouba. So I think in a couple of years they could survive without him.
Yeah, I do too. I think
he's got a no move clause, so
whatever.
That complicates it, but it doesn't make it impossible.
It does complicate it. I mean, they're in a tough division. There's no question about it. This is a very tough division.
The Devils are a decent team now.
The Devils are a better team than they were. I mean, Carolina, remember, is back in this division.
Carolina's a good team.
They're a really good team. Oh, but did you hear what Nevekovic? No, I can never say his name. Sorry,
Nevekovic.
Thank you. Him. What he said the other day. I was listening on XM, and when they were interviewing him, what he said about coming to Detroit. He's like, well, it's really something to come to an original 6 team where things are going to be handled in a much more professional way. I was like, whoa, hold on, man.
Well, I mean, I think
that was something, but this is a young goal. I mean, that was a pretty slamming thing to say.
You're talking about a guy who was nominated for the Calder.
No, I know.
They weren't going to qualify.
But he doesn't have a right to say that. But you don't hear guys saying that kind of thing very often.
Well, what do you expect?
Because they disrespected him in every possible way.
Right. What do you expect
he gave it back.
When the owner runs that team like a friggin' sideshow?
Again, not disagreeing with him. I'm just saying that.
Look, I think we could let's say it like this. You basically waived him. Any team could have picked him up. Then he was your best playoff goalie because he was like, yeah, he's our guy. He does that, and then you don't qualify him.
Yeah. And you lose Hamilton. And you lose Hamilton, which I think is losing Hamilton. I think is something that didn't have to happen. Like I really think that it had to happen because they just waited too long to get it done. Like if they had time last year to bring Hamilton, to extend Hamilton, and it could have kept him there. They didn't have to wait until this whole big thing. They kind of blew it on that one. And I feel the GM I feel the worst for is in this whole league is Waddell. Like I think that he is in.
I don't feel bad for Tom Waddell. I feel bad for, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I don't feel bad for Tom Waddell.
Don Waddell and Tom. Yeah.
Don Waddell, rather. You said Tom.
Tom Dundon. Yeah. Tom Dundon and Don Waddell.
Tom Waddell. I don't feel bad for him because he didn't have to take the job.
Right.
He took the job at less pay because that's the job he could get, and so that was his choice. I feel worse.
Yeah, I mean, listen. Here's what I want to say about that. Like Kevin knows Waddell better than I do, but if he was on here, he might. I don't know how he backed this up or not, but Waddell cares a lot about the fans of the city he's in, and he really and this is something I've always. Waddell probably is more.
Does he care about female fans? Is that why they got Tony DeAngelo on the team?
No,
does he care about Russian fans?
No, I'm just saying probably more like he probably took this. I think he did not want this job to be the GM anymore, but he took it because he felt like the only way that they were going to get anybody in there that was going to bring them some possibility of winning. I just think that he does.
I want to say this, and I want to say it real clear. When he came out, when basically Don Waddell came out and said that he asked around about DeAngelo and nobody had anything bad to say about him. Again, all you had to do was talk to any Russian player on the Rangers, Chris Kreider, who punched him in the face.
Yeah.
Steve Yzerman, when he was like, I think Yzerman was the GM when they drafted him.
Yes.
Or Julian Brisebois even, because he was probably still there as the assistant when they drafted him. Any of those teams that gave up on Tony DeAngelo, did he talk to any of them? Or did he talk to a few players that said he's okay?
Well, no, Russ. What happened was all the calls went to voicemail and then were dumped. That's what happened.
I know a lot of Canes fans that are not happy with DeAngelo.
Oh yeah, no, I do too. I do too. And I'm that's a perfectly fair point you're making. I'm just showing back to when Waddell took the job and why he took the job, not based.
No, that's fine. Okay, that's fine.
What you're saying now is legitimate, and all the criticism is like I'm going to criticize him hard for Neveljkovic. I'm going to criticize him hard for Hamilton.
Hey,
those are two things I said it right.
But we have fan appreciation. We have the storm surge, so everything's great.
It's just crazy that they are such a good team. Really, at the end of the day,
you could thank Brindamore for that.
You can thank Brindamore, and you got to give Waddell some credit for that.
You do have to give Waddell some credit.
some credit, but you have to thank Ron Francis for drafting most of the players.
But Francis made some pretty bad trades with Carolina. There's some Francis handed Chicago a lot of good players. And
it went both ways. They got Teravainen as a salary dump. Now he's one of their best players.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, I'll give you that. I mean, listen, I thought Francis's job in Carolina was average.
I'll tell you who I'll give the credit to. The guy who drafted was responsible for his staff drafting. A lot of those people were Tony McDonald, and he left a few years ago. That's who I will give credit to.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. I don't know. You would know better than I would.
I know him.
And there's something I wanted to ask you, Russ, before. So that's my thought on the Rangers. And I really do like to finish up on the Rangers. I really do like. I know I'm saying my argument for these blogs are going to be that every team can win a Stanley Cup, and every team can win a Stanley Cup because that's the way hockey works. But this is a team I really think can win a Stanley Cup. And I as I've been going through, and one of the things I was doing, by the way, that I'm going to do, I went through the last 4 years of predictions for the three of us, and when we do our predictions this year, I'm going to have a scoreboard on how we have done over the last 4 years. You're going to be surprised at the results. Like basically the way, you get no points if you get, the higher it's like golf, the higher the worse, the higher the score, the worse. So like if you have like a guy in first and a team in first that ends up in fourth,
right,
you get 3 points.
I have very little expectations that I've done well in this area. Trust me.
None of us have done great. Okay.
I'm expecting to be excoriated by Act, but let me just.
But no, it's a fun thing. It took a long time, so it's a fun thing to do. We'll go through it before you get to. Another thing we'll talk to you guys about later is I think we should do I think at some point this week we should do or next week, I think we should have our own little hockey draft league this year. I think it'd be fun to do. We'll talk about that further. But with Kevin, like the four of us having 4 teams, like a 4-team league, it'd be fun.
The 2 prospects I would pick out, and I mean dropping this on you because you know the Rangers so well. One is Lundqvist, as who you mentioned, and would you rather talk about Zach Jones or Braden Schneider?
I'll talk about Schneider because I think Zach Jones kind of proved himself a little last year. I mean, Schneider is good. He's not ready yet. Schneider, I don't want people to think he's ready yet because when you're going to play a physical role the way he plays, he's not quite there. I saw some of that in those 2 games with the Flyers, that he needs a little more strength behind that kind of play. But his skating was really good. His defense is solid, and his offense is there. He's not a great offensive player, but I think he's similar to Trouba, where he'll put up those kinds of points.
Right.
And so I think that he's on the way with that. Lundqvist is just tremendous. He was one of the best guys, if not the best defensively, and that's better than York and Zamula in both of those games. Well, he only played the one, I think.
Is he any relation to Lundqvist?
No, it's spelled different. There's a K.
It's spelled different. Everything.
With a K instead of a Q.
By the way, did you hear the controversy that's going on between Lundqvist and Zubov? Did you hear this whole thing?
No, we'll hear that in a minute. So the only thing I want to say with Niels Lundqvist is that his skating's great. He makes the hard passes look easy. He is ridiculously calm. He doesn't turn the puck over. There was a play where he just basically played keep away from Tuo Suomala, the Flyers' second-round pick this year. Yep. Couldn't even touch him on it. He had to give up on the play because Lundqvist was just keeping it away from him, and he just couldn't get it. Terrific shot. Knows when to jump in the play. Like, he's ready. He's a guy that I was high on when he got drafted. I think I told the story. We went to a tournament. It was in Detroit. It was in Plymouth. And right. It was him and Adam Boqvist. We got the numbers wrong. So we all thought that Lundqvist was Boqvist, and he wasn't. And when we found out that it was Lundqvist doing that, we were like, wow, he's actually better than Adam Boqvist in this game, and he probably was in that tournament. And it just showed that, like, that's when I first realized this guy was really good. So I think he is going to be a very big surprise and a really good player. So now what's the controversy? Okay, so December 13th is the night that the Rangers are going to celebrate Lundqvist, and they're going to have they're going to retire his jersey. Is that right? Am I correct?
No, January 20th.
January something.
Oh, wait, well, is it okay? January 20. Okay, sorry. Okay, you're wrong. Yeah, wrong. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Here we go. January 28th, 2022. Right. Yep, sorry about that. Versus the Capitals. No, I'm sorry, not the Rangers. The Rangers game is not versus Capitals. That's the same night, though. Turns out that the Stars are going to retire Zubov's number. Now, people are like up in arms at the NHL about this. Talking to somebody at the league today, and they're like, they don't like the idea that you would like to give each guy his own kind of night in the league. Like Zubov.
Well, are any of these games nationally broadcast?
I don't know, but
If they're not, I don't see the problem.
But the concept is, don't you think that? I mean, you have all these possible games. Don't you think you should have like why have Lundqvist's number retired and Zubov's number retired?
It would be one thing if they were both East Coast games that started at 7:00,
right.
But the Rangers game starts at 7, and the Dallas game, if it's in Dallas, starts at 8:30 or 9. So
Right.
there is no conflict.
No, but still, it's like a sports center. It's like a sports center thing. Like you're gonna have you're gonna have a story. You have a story on Zubov. You have a story.
It's gonna be on Sports Center for 15 seconds. It's about as much time as.
Yeah, I mean the coverage that ESPN's given hockey so far is not great, so I'm not all that concerned about it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a big deal. If one of them were nationally broadcast, then I would say, okay, maybe there's an issue there.
Well, Zubov's versus the Capitals. I mean, Zubov was a good Ranger. Right?
He was a great Ranger. Listen, him and Leach on their power play was tremendous. I didn't want them to trade Zubov. I thought it was idiotic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of surprised they didn't have Zubov's retirement against the Rangers. Like that would have been
that would be great, but maybe they just couldn't make it happen.
Yeah, but they're doing it against the Capitals. I'm not sure who they're playing. Who Lundqvist's game against is.
I didn't look.
Actually. Yeah, I didn't look either.
Maybe
it's against the Capitals since that was his other team.
I would say Capitals would be. I mean, Capitals would be good because of the Backstrom thing. Like I think that having two of the top Swedish guys. Like
that's
definitely
not a bad idea.
I mean, Backstrom and Lundqvist are obviously, good buddies. They played on a ton of teams together.
And then after Lundqvist drops the ceremonial puck, Ryan Reeves can beat the crap out of Tom Wilson.
Fantastic. I know. That game opening night, Rangers Capitals, Reeves Wilson. That's going to be something. I mean, that's going to have a thing to it.
It's against the Minnesota Wild, which again, so this is weird. Years ago, I was at the Mike Richter retirement, and it came off the heels of like the All-Star game. I think I came home like a day early or whatever, and I believe it was against the Minnesota Wild too.
Really, same thing? Is this like an example of the Rangers just trying to make a team that they feel like people don't really want to watch normally?
Maybe.
Like they're picking a game that's like as random as you can kind of get.
Yeah,
the Wild. There's absolutely no rivalry between the Wild.
And it happened right around the same time of the year. It was.
I'll tell you why.
Late in January.
I'll tell you why. Who is Lundqvist's best friend? Matt Zuccarello.
Good call.
Yeah, you know what? Richter's was on February 4th, and
that's a good comment.
But I'm not sure it's exactly because of that. I think this just may be a situation of the schedule, just the way the schedule.
It's a plus.
It is a plus. I mean,
I think that's a good one. I like if that makes some sense. It makes some sense. He's his good friend, and like I said, Backstrom. I'm sure. I don't know what the relation they have, but I can't imagine that they probably played in 100 games together. Backstrom and Lundqvist.
They definitely wouldn't choose against the Leafs because William Nylander would tackle them.
It was against the Minnesota Wild. It was.
That's so funny.
I think it's just because of the time of the year and the schedule. I don't think it has anything to do with Zuccarello because this is too much of a coincidence.
I don't know.
The dates are close. It's difference of February 4th and January 28th. That's close.
They picked January 28th. And so the Stars people are upset because the Stars had that date picked for Zubov way ahead, right? They had it picked earlier, and they feel like you're stepping on them toes.
In 2003.
What was that?
Richter's retirement was in 2003.
Oh man! Every time you mention Mike Richter, I just gotta say,
oh geez, here we go.
There's nobody that should be in the Hall of Fame more than Mike Richter.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
He is the most disrespected goalie in NHL history. I'm throwing it out there right now. Like for what he. I mean, the guy won a Stanley Cup
for his total accomplishments. I agree. Again, he was even the top goalie in the league when he blew his knee apart in that idiotic All-Star game when they had the most shots competition. They decided it was a good idea to watch like Mike Richter make like 30, 40 saves in like a minute and a half span. And then
which was fantastic to watch.
It was. And then the next day he couldn't walk.
But that was it. Yeah, that was a bad. I mean, but yeah, Mike Richter at the top of his game was just by far one of the most exciting players ever to watch.
Yeah, there's no question.
And just like, and in fact, he wins. The Rangers don't win that cup without him. USA does not win the World Cup without him.
You can ask Pavel Bure what it was like when he stoned him on
oh yeah, that's just a moment that you'll never forget.
When Borey became a Ranger, he talked about that. Like that was a big deal in his life. Like that was for both of them.
Jonathan Quick, was to me like was the next Mike Richter in a lot of ways, but Quick was not Richter. Richter just had as good as, and Quick won a couple cups obviously, and it was great. But Richter just was so crazy good and so good under pressure and such a good person on top of it all.
Oh no, he's great.
Yeah, I mean, just how that guy is not in the Hall of Fame.
And he's still worried about getting CTE. Like he does a lot for that because he got that skull fracture, which is what made him retire. Yeah. And so he does worry about CTE. And this is like a very smart guy. Like I hope it doesn't happen to him.
Also, the only NHL goalie that I ever played against as a youth. I did play against him, and we played for Flowertown out here in at the arena in Chestnut Hill.
I played against Kasperi Kapanen and against Mike Richter. The thing is, Kasperi Kapanen was 8.
No, Kapanen was 8 on the driveway of his house. Okay,
I will say this: we always laugh about the Bobby Ryan Cherry Hill stuff, but the amount
Mike Richter was nice even back then. Like,
but the amount of coverage that Mike Richter has gotten over the years from being at this Flowertown Academy is just incredible.
Yeah. It is incredible. But the thing was, he was his family's a big part of the community too. It's like it's not just like, Flowertown's about the Flowertown Academy is like 4 miles from where I sit right now.
Okay.
But when I was a kid, I lived in South Jersey, so it was pretty far away.
Right.
But and I played at I played open hockey at that Flowertown place a lot. At that arena still, and then Mike Richter is like he's hanging in the rafters there. It's all over the place. It's something special.
Just before we finish the show, today is the anniversary, the 49th anniversary of the game that stood the world on its head, which was the Game 8 of the Canada-Russia series, the famous Paul Henderson goal.
49th year?
49th. 70.
Oh, man, next year will be something, huh?
Yeah, and it's I was only 5 years old when that game was played. I know that I was watching it. I don't remember it. I
was not watching it.
Yeah, but we got the game on. We got the game off of Canadian TV through our rabbit ears and the snow on the screen. We watched it, but for people,
thankfully there's no more Game 8s.
Yeah.
Those were the days, Mike, when you had to get hockey off the snow thing. I love that.
But the thing is that people don't remember is that wasn't the best players that Canada had because of the split. Gordie Howe was in the WHA. So was Bobby Hull. Bobby Orr was injured. You had guys like Bill White and Gary Bergman and Ronnie Ellis, who was a really good player. Paul Henderson was a good player. There were good players. There were great players on the team, but there were only it was not the best that Canada could offer. They had Dryden and Esposito in goal, but it wasn't like all. I mean, they had a young Gilles Perreault and a young Richard Martin and a young Marcel Dion.
Yeah, but they had Dryden and Esposito in goal. That's really
right. But the point I was going to make, Russ, is that those three players they were early in their career and they were all like really good, and they didn't play them, and they went back to North America because they weren't going to play.
Yeah.
So, but yes.
What year was it? 71?
72.
72, yeah. A year later, Bernie Parent would have been the goalie and would have dominated.
Yeah, Bernie Parent was in the WHA at that point.
He was in WHA at that time, yep.
He went for the money.
I know, as a lot of guys did, and you couldn't blame him. I mean,
you can't blame him.
Back then, I've talked many times to people from like old people like that, people who talk about the AHL, and people who played for AHL teams because the money was just as good and you weren't going to get traded around. You could go someplace, your family could settle down. You knew you could raise your kids in the town. Yeah. So people played their whole careers in Hershey just because they're going to make almost the same amount of money, and they knew they could stay in Hershey for the rest of their kids.
Johnny Bauer didn't want to leave Cleveland when he was picked up by Toronto because he was making more money in the AHL than he would in the NHL.
Because it wasn't like $1 million versus $100,000. It was like $60,000 versus $50,000. It was it was like really incredible, and often the $60,000 was in the AHL or the or WHA, but you didn't have the prestige of playing there. Great stuff as always, folks. Really good stuff. What I want to talk to you about, Russ, maybe tomorrow we'll discuss this. Just think about this all because, as I mentioned today, with Kraken, with Capo and Lafreniere, are there other guys like that who we are going to be surprised by because we haven't seen what they really are because of COVID. Like the development of players, that some guys that could just jump out at us now. And tell me who you think, Mike. You can come up with the same thing too, and just like come up with some players who really could be the breakout type guys.
And I have a top 75 list from the Hockey News that we teased.
Yeah, I want to get into that. I think we should do that maybe after we do our draft. That'd be kind of fun. For my draft idea, I think we should all draft like maybe like one line and one extra forward and one extra defenseman and two goalies or something like that, and just have
That's
a thing that runs through the year where everything will be fun. So we'll see about it. We'll talk about it later. We'll get details about that, but it should be all of us. If we can get Anthony on too, that'd be great. If we can figure out a time, we could do 5 of us. But if otherwise, it could be the 4 of us.
Okay.
All right. All the time we have for today, folks. We went a little bit long. Sorry about that out there in Radio Land. Go join your other regularly scheduled program already in progress. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you